coming back and watching another one of my videos. My name is Khandy. If this is your first time watching, welcome. If you're one of my regular viewers and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. This week we have a special treat. This is Sandy. She is going to be joining us today and telling us about her adoption journey. So Sandy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am Sandy Kemp. I recently, 2 years ago, moved from New Jersey to North Carolina. And a little bit about myself, I work in the fashion industry. And we recently adopted 7 months ago.
Congratulations. He's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, he is absolutely the light of our lives. So, yeah, that's about it.
Great. So what led you and your husband to adoption?
So we had discussed adopting when we first started dating. Okay. So this was always kind of part of the plan. Mm-hmm. And then we started doing research and figured out how much adoption costed. So, mind you, we've been married for 11 years. Okay. So 11 years ago, it was hard to wrap our heads around the amount of money that needed to be spent to privately adopt. And we weren't really getting a lot of information on how to do it or who to go through or what to do. Long story short, we ended up going the route of trying naturally, which did not work. And then I ended up switching jobs so that we could get covered for IVF. Nice. That did not work either.
Okay.
So fast forward about a decade, mm-hmm. We ended up moving to North Carolina, and we decided now or never, we need to make a decision on what we're going to do. So we discussed trying IVF again. It was not in the cards. And I was digging more into adoption at that point. We had family members that adopted through foster care. I grew up with some people that were adopted, but it was during that time in the 80s, it was internationally. Mm-hmm. So it was just a very different world. So I kind of just did my research, talked to Matt about it, and we decided, let's just take the plunge and see if this works. We signed up with a consultant, and I'm very type A, so we already had our home study rolling, and we were already head first in that. And long story short, our home study took a really long time because it was during COVID. Mm-hmm. So it took about 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then we were approved right around Thanksgiving of 2020, and then Nico came in May.
Beautiful. All right. So when you originally started thinking about adoption, like before you started like your home study and stuff, did it scare you?
No, adoption in general doesn't scare me at all. The process was overwhelming. So I had no idea what really went into it. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea how controversial it really was in the media.
Okay.
Like the more research I did, the more I started feeling icky about adoption and certain parts of adoption, like the icky, like the bad parts, I mean, there's just we can go in a rabbit hole, but no, it didn't scare me. I did learn a lot of parts of adoption that I didn't love. But it was really around the places that do it wrong.
Yeah.
So,
the unethical side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. OMG.
Keep going.
What type of things did you do to prepare yourself for your journey?
So, I spoke to a lot of adoptees that I've
Okay.
been friends with for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
that I never was prompted to ask them questions that I had asked them because
Mm-hmm.
it was never in my world. I spoke to my cousins who are adopted from foster care. I thought it was important to see how they felt as opposed to how the adoptive parents felt.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to the adoptive parents. So I spoke to my aunt and I spoke to a friend of mine from high school. Her parents actually wrote us a recommendation letter. They adopted from Korea and they have 3 children and they have been amazing. They've been a great resource, but as I said, it was very different in the 80s when you were
Mm-hmm.
adopting. So they ended up writing us a recommendation letter. So I just kind of prepared myself that way. And then when we signed on with the consultant, our consultant provided us classes
Mm-hmm.
on top of the home study work that we were having to do. We had to do classes for a home study, but we were provided classes. And then on top of that, we were able to link up with some people that are on Instagram that are big into the community and have one-on-one calls with them. So I was able to really dive in and ask all of the questions that I wanted to ask to make sure that this was what we wanted to do, that I felt
Yeah.
okay about it. Because as I said, I kind of struggled with it a little bit, which
Yeah.
I didn't think I would.
Mm-hmm.
I just have like a really big heart for birth moms, even
Yeah.
though I don't call Nico's mom birth mom, I just call her.
Mm-hmm.
I have a huge heart for them,
Yeah.
and I think that any of us could be in that situation,
100%.
and and for her or anyone to make that decision is something I would have not been able to do. So I just hold them very high. That's
Yeah.
all. So it
Same.
was just, yeah, I wasn't sure that I was ready to be a part of that until I started talking and educating myself.
Yeah. So when you embarked on this journey, how familiar were you with the term open, semi-open, and closed adoption?
I think all of them are kind of fluid. I mean, there's not a lot. I was not open to a closed adoption. Matt was not open to a closed adoption. Um,
So
I
when
come
you
from
say
a
you weren't open to a closed adoption, if you'd have seen a situation and everything was perfect as far as like your preferences, you'd have said no.
no,
Okay.
no. It's just my personality. I would not be able to do that and not have communication.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not just for me, for our child. I
100%. Mm-hmm.
think it's I think it's really important to keep that possibility open. And I know things change. Don't get me wrong. I understand. Like some closed adoptions become open adoption,
Mm-hmm.
um I
It's
just don't.
fluid. This whole thing is fluid.
Totally
Everything
fluid. Yeah,
changes all the
that's what I mean.
time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And people's definitions of such change and
Different.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Mm-hmm.
familiar with semi-open and open, but as familiar as the textbooks will tell you. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody has a different definition anyway. So, how familiar are you until you're really in the situation? Like, I don't think anybody really knows what those mean until you're in it.
So what
Like,
was your definition of open? Before
um,
you jumped in and like did anything or
well,
before
we
you
were
did
open to everything. Like, we were open to come to live in the same town, have birthday parties together, like all of the things. We were
Okay.
open to visits, sleepovers, whatever.
Okay.
I come from a blended family. So my dad was married twice before my mom. I have 4 other siblings. So I'm the youngest of 5. And so technically, they are half siblings. Um, and I couldn't imagine my life without them.
So you're used
So
to seeing a blended family that just loves each other regardless of
yeah,
where
and
you
I
come from, and it's healthy.
and I'm part of it. So I'm like thrown in the middle, and I literally couldn't imagine not knowing who they are. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, Nico has siblings. I couldn't imagine him not knowing them eventually. You know what I mean? As that progresses, just because that would be like me not knowing one of my siblings. It just,
Gotcha.
yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around it. So, what was my definition of open? Open could be so many things, but we were open to anything, really anything.
So when you were presented with your son's first mom, did you two have a conversation based as to what her definition of open was?
We did not. So
Okay.
Nico's adoption was very fast.
Okay.
And mind you, the way that this happened was we were already starting to do our paperwork to renew our home study.
Okay.
As I said, it took a while, and I'm type A, so I kind of wanted to like get ahead of it. That morning, the morning that we got the case, we were going to go renew our fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot all the paperwork. We were already halfway there. I'm cursing in the car. We had to turn around, and Matt is telling me, like, we'll go. And I said, bleep this. We're not going. I'm done. Like, I'm done with the process. I'm done. Like, I'm tired. We went through a decade of infertility. I was just done.
Mm-hmm. One of those days. Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, it's 1:00. I'm working. Matt's working. And we receive the case, and I go downstairs because we both work from home, and I go downstairs and I read it to him, and he's like, I have a good feeling. I'm going to go start cleaning the garage. And I said, what? And he's like, I have a really good feeling about this. I'm going to start, like, he has an Etsy store. So he's like, I'm going to start making sure my orders are intact and everything.
Because I know we're going to be gone for a few days.
Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you realize, and he's a planner. And we also had a 14-year-old dog at this point that had 3 legs. Like, well, for us to just get up and leave was a really big deal. So I was like, okay, I mean, we'll show on this, but it's not going to happen. Like, we had a disruption. And I was just, it was one of those days, like you said. So we show on it. Fast forward, it's 5:30, and we get a call from the agency, and we were chosen. And mom's in labor. So, yeah. So there was no conversation. Mom's in labor, and we're like, what do you mean she's in labor?
Start drive. You gotta love it.
And she's in Arizona, and we're in North Carolina.
Love it. Get on a plane.
So craziness. So we're like, well, we can't leave tonight. You know, we've got to get our stuff together, and we can potentially leave tomorrow. And the girl said, you know, let's take a beat, like, get your stuff together and see what happens. Because labor was really contractions at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're running around, getting all of our stuff together, like complete maniacs. And my sister comes over, my niece is over. I'm asking her, what the heck should I pack? Like, so pack all this stuff, get all our stuff together, and we get another call later that night. I think it was like 11, and she said, well, the contractions have slowed down, and she's X amount dilated. I forget what it was. And let's take our time, because it was a home birth.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was crazy, because that was what I had wanted when we were doing IVF. I wanted a home birth.
Mm-hmm. So
it was like, what? Like, it was very weird how it was all happening. So we said, okay. They held us off until Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, I looked at Matt and I said, should we just book the tickets? And he said, just book the tickets. So Monday morning, we flew out. We spent the most amazing week with Nico's mom. We went over to her house. We had dinner with her family. We talked. We heard the baby's heartbeat. We met the midwife. We did all the things. Like, it was literally perfection. I'm gonna cry, apparently. It was perfection. And Nico was being stubborn. He did not want to come out. So we kind of just hung around for the week and continued to go over there and did our thing. And then I got a text message on Sunday, come over. And I said to her, I said, now? Like, I kind of figured it was never happening. We were just living in Arizona for the
We're just moving here. It's so nice.
It's crazy.
Great real estate.
And she wrote, yes, now. So we had already had the car packed and everything, and we go over there, and I'm so anxious and happy and excited and nervous, and everybody else is. And we get there, and I didn't know what to do with myself, so I ended up cleaning her refrigerator because because I literally did. I have to tell that story because it was so ridiculous. I had such nervous energy, and there were so many, like, her family was there, so there was just so much stuff in the refrigerator. I was like, I have to make this, like, nice. I have to make so everybody can understand, because everybody's going to be crazy. And so, long story short, or long story longer, he ended up coming at 12:30 on Monday morning, and it was the best experience of our entire life. We were able to be there, and I was able to catch him in the water, and it was the craziest thing. Matt cut the cord. We did. Nico's mama wanted us to do immediate skin on skin. That was her request. So we did that, and we just kind of hung out, and the midwives checked him. I mean, everybody was just, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. We were there, we bonded. As Nico's mama says, we became one. And then we took him home at 4:30 in the morning. Well, we took him to our hotel room at 4:30 in the morning, which is wild because he's only a couple hours old. And we're sitting here with this little boy who's 6 pounds, probably 8 ounces by that point, because it just kept going down. And we stared at him for 24 hours, just like in awe, totally high off of what just happened. And then I crashed, and Matt stayed up for another 24 hours, thank God. And we waited out ICPC. But it was insane and amazing and hard, very hard for everybody. I never cried. I cried when he was born, but not like crazy crying. I cried the hardest when his mama signed her TPR. It was very difficult for me because we had such a close bond, and still do, that my heart hurt really bad for her. I don't know why, but that's what prompted, like, all of the hard, heavy, ugly crying. And we've just kind of been healing ever since. That's really, I think, what it is. Well, and she always tells me that she's just told me a couple days ago. She's like, Sandy, I feel that, because I'm like, am I doing enough? She's like, I feel the love. Chill out. Like, take it back, relax. You're doing it. But yeah, I just want everyone to feel good about what happened and what is happening and all of that. So it's pretty much been a dream. That's all I can say. It's been wild. Sorry, it was a lot.
That was
It's a lot.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
It was,
We
when you get into this and it's like you hear stories of struggle in every family that's growing their family, and you don't have control over it because it's not happening. We're not going about it the natural way.
Yep.
And you tell people, because I told you this many times before Nico came, it'll happen. Trust the process. It's hard. It sucks. You'll have your moments, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, as soon as that happens, and even I hear the story, I'm like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was worth it.
But that's what I mean. Like, you can't, just like with the definition of adoption, you can't give somebody a definition or explain this experience or put any of this into
because
words.
Everybody's is completely different.
It's totally different.
Everybody's is completely different. Just like how you said that you didn't, like, you might have cried a little bit maybe when he was born or she cut the cord or something, but you didn't cry until the TPR. I never cried with my daughter.
Yeah.
Like when we got to the hospital, in her time in the NICU, when we got her home, not a one time until our attorney called on the phone and said, by the time we get off this phone call, the adoption will be finalized.
Isn't that wild?
And it was because I wasn't expecting it. And it was almost just like, because all these things are happening. It's just like everything is just happening. And it's just like you're almost on like autopilot.
Yep.
And it's like something can finally relax in your body. And it's just like, we're done.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's just, I think there's like that. Yeah. There's
and
that,
it
like,
naturally just releases. It's like all of these emotions that you've been holding on for years. It's not months. It's the buildup of everything you've gone through to get to this one spot with this one baby that you didn't even know who this baby was going to be, where the baby was going to come from. But this perfect baby that was meant to be your baby. And it's just like,
and for me, it wasn't just Nico. It was, his mama and I didn't even have a relationship because we didn't have time to. The first text message I got from
Peyton's mom also.
Yeah, we were on our way to the airport, and the first text message I have it and I'll keep it forever. She goes, "This is your baby mama." And I now to this day call her my baby mama because we both call each other's baby mama. It's the funniest thing because that, like, just, I was like, this is real. Like, this is meant to be. This is happening. And even at that point, I'm like, she can still change her mind. We will support her. We'll be there for her. But it just felt right at that point. It was a connection that I was waiting for, that I wasn't owed by any means. Like, she doesn't owe me anything. But that I was so happy happened because I needed that, just to be okay with everything. And I know that's not fair because it's not about me, but I just,
no, it's okay sometimes for it to be about you. It's okay.
I needed her to be okay. Like, I needed it not to be a bad situation.
I think, and I don't know this, but I think sometimes with our children's first moms, I think that something in them feels such a sense of relief when they feel that connection with us, that it's like,
she thanks me all the time.
All the time.
And I'm like,
all the time.
Why
are you thanking me? What did I do for you?
You know
what I'm saying? What do you need from me right now? What can I do for you? You know what I mean? But again, it's that thing that we will never understand.
Yeah.
We will never understand.
It's so nice when you have that mutual respect for each other and love 100%. For each other, because you just know your family will be so great because of that. That it starts right, like it starts with that. So I know Nico will be okay because he has all the love in the world. I mean, all the love.
So what's the relationship like now, that Nico is here as far as your open adoption?
We talk. I mean, like I said,
what's the expectation? Let's say that. So what's the expectation?
So that is the beautiful part about her again. She's in charge. And I mean that because I give her full control because she has the utmost most respect for us and her son. Okay. She is amazing. We talk all the time, so that's not it. I let her run with what she wants to do. If she wants to have visits, she knows we'll fly out there. We'll fly her here, however she wants to do it in a heartbeat. So what she had said to me when we first got home is we will get in our groove. And we're just doing that. We're just kind of organically letting it flow and happen as it happens. I mean, there's no expectations on her end. There's no expectations on my end. I send her things. We have a shared picture file that some of her family members are a part of that I upload almost daily. Like I said, we talk all the time. I leaned on her a lot when Nico was a newborn because he had acid reflux, and we went through 10 different formulas and Same. Yeah. I mean, normal mom stuff. I ask her constant questions about her older children. Did they have this? They have that? You know, just
Same.
She's a best friend of mine.
I would be at well checks and I'd text her and be like, hey, so they're asking me this. What do you think? And she'd be like, oh, I did it. And I'm like, yep. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's our open adoption is really, I can't explain it because it's just unfolding how it's supposed to unfold. I can't tell you how it's going to be. I can't tell you what we're going to do. I can't tell you if they're going to visit this year or if they're going to visit next year or if they're going to move here or if we're going to, you know what I mean? I can't tell you any of it, but we're open to all of it. And I hope that one day we will have visits, and her older children did meet him after he was born, and I hope they are able to have a relationship, but we're just kind of letting it happen.
What advice would you give to a family that is, you know, again, we said it.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different meaning of open adoption, even semi-open adoption and closed adoption. Sometimes you ask an expectant mom, they'll say, oh, I want a closed adoption. And you say, well, what is your definition of closed adoption?
Yeah,
and it's completely warped. And it's like, this is not what it is.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a family that is afraid of the concept of an open adoption?
I think that most families are afraid of open adoption when they first walk down this road. My biggest advice would be to educate yourself as much as possible. With that being said, you can start to go down the social media rabbit hole that leads you the wrong way.
I hate it.
It can be really toxic. It's hard because everybody's different and everybody's life situations are different. So for me, it just was natural to have an open adoption. I wasn't scared of anything or any part of it. For my parents, for instance, they were scared. They were nervous because all they know is the kids that were adopted in the 70s and 80s, there is no real open adoption.
Same with our in-laws. Our in-laws. It's but it's not even about the 70s and 80s, there's also a cultural thing with African Americans.
There is.
There's
Yes.
a secrecy that comes with it that I hate, you know, because with our daughter, my whole thing is if someone wants to love her and it's any type of positivity and good love that's going to come into her life, I'm not going to stop it.
Same.
At all.
Same.
And so bring it on.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take that away from her at all, ever. But it's a cultural thing that I saw with them. And then also the time. Because back in their day, it was just like, we did this. It was a secret. We cut everybody out. And it was just like,
my mom ended up flying out to Arizona. So Matt had to come back for work. My mom ended up flying out to Arizona for the last, I want to say 5 days, so that I wasn't alone. And she ended up meeting Nico's mom. And she completely turned around. Like, her heart was now in it because she saw, like, this isn't what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's not going to come and take the baby away.
That's their fear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's not going to, she's not a bad example. She's not a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said in the beginning, I know for me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but I made a lot of stupid decisions when I was a kid growing up. Mm-hmm. I could have been in this situation easily, being stupid. Mm-hmm. Anyone can be in this situation. Doesn't make you a bad person at all. Mm-hmm. And every expectant mom who's considering this has different reasons. There's a myriad of reasons that no one can ever understand because you're not in that situation. Mm-hmm. So you can't judge. I think there's just so much judgment wrapped around adoption. And everybody has their own thought process. And
I also think that the older generations, they put a lot of 99% of the expectant moms into one bucket.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like even I remember one of the nurses in the NICU, older, she had adopted. And I remember she was probably, I want to say in like her 60s, late 60s. And she asked me something about exposures. And I said she wasn't on anything. She was just a preemie.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, really? And she was like, oh, I thought this was an adoption. And I said, not all children that are adopted are exposed to any type of substances. Like, and I mean, I got so insulted because do you believe that every child that is placed for adoption is exposed to any type of substance?
I think that's I think that's the belief.
It's such a misconception.
And it's also a problem with the education that you're provided because they put such a heavy emphasis on, will you accept this? Will you accept that?
And it's like, but that's not the case for every mom. It's not every mom is using any type of substance. Not every mom is drinking alcohol. Not every mom is smoking cigarettes. That is not the case for every mom. Some moms at this time cannot parent. That's the reason.
Yes.
No more, no less.
1,000%. And
she can't parent right now.
And the fact that anyone makes the decision, whether or not you're on drugs, whether or not you're drinking, whether or not whatever, and the fact that anyone makes the decision to step up, put themselves aside and say, I need to choose to put this child up for adoption as opposed to drag this child through whatever I'm going through. It's amazing. Like, I would have never, if I was in that situation, chosen adoption. I'm pro-choice, so I would have ended up getting an abortion because there is no way in hell that I am strong enough or capable of making that sacrifice. And I mean, I guess I can't say that wholeheartedly because I've never been in the situation, but I really don't think I could have. I just don't think I could have. I don't think I'm strong enough to do something like that. So the fact that there's a negative air around birth moms is crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. They're doing something that I would say 75% of women cannot choose to.
Cannot do.
They can't.
Cannot do.
Like, they just can't for whatever reason. So the stigma needs to go away. It just needs to go away. Like, and it's funny, even in our age group, because I know you and I are the same age, but even in our age group, some of my friends did ask questions like, is she on drugs? Is she homeless? Is she this? Is she that? And even if she was, it doesn't matter. Like, none of that matters.
I got the same thing.
I
got the same thing. I get well, does she have other kids? Does she have them? What is she doing? And,
right?
And it's just like,
slow it down, please. Because if you're going to come at me with all that judgment, we're going to have a different type of conversation. But my closest and best friends, the ones that started out with that type of reaction now are totally turned around as well. Like, and I realize that it's because most of the people that are not in the situation just know what they've been told, or the handful of cases they've heard about, or the bad stuff you saw on Jerry Springer you know what I mean? Like, so the reason that they were the way that they were was lack of education.
1000% lack of education. We're 80s babies. We grew up in like that crack epidemic. We're Northerners, both of us. So it's just like where the foster care system was overwhelmed. I don't even know how it survived, to be honest with you. And so it's like that trickle effect has completely compromised so many and warped so many people's idea of what adoption is, foster care is, just completely. So it's like, again, the lack of education around it is just,
I know, we could sit down and talk about that for hours. Like I said, both of my cousins were adopted. I want to say it was from foster care, but it technically wasn't, because my aunt was a nurse, and their mom was young and exposed. They were exposed, and my aunt adopted the first boy, and then their mom got pregnant again and adopted the second baby. So it was, they either go into foster care but this was the 70s and it was totally different. Like you said, I mean, everything has changed so drastically in the best way possible, but there's still so much to get out. So having conversations like this I thank you for having conversations like this, because I think that this shows a different side of what everyone thinks they know.
Yeah.
And it's nice for people to see that. I know that that's not solely you're more towards the adoption.
No, but it's important. You know what I mean? It's important to see two women that have walked this journey and can speak to it and say, hey, it's healthy. It's not that scary. And our children are fine. They're happy. They're thriving. And this works. You know what I mean? And
it does. But we, us as adoptive parents, need to put our feelings aside a little bit and really think about expectant moms, birth moms, first moms, and put ourselves in those shoes and really cherish those relationships, because there are some really awful things happening in the Facebook groups and all that, and I'm just like, where do these people come from? It's 2022. I mean, and like you said, we grew up in the North, so it's a little I'm partial, obviously, but we just I grew up differently. I know you grew up differently.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these people, it's like they lived under a rock. We need to do better as
Mm-hmm.
adoptive parents. We
Mm-hmm.
need to do better.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
do.
Education. Education.
Yeah. Yeah.
Education.
That's a whole nother.
Education. Last question for you.
Sure.
What does adoption mean to you?
It's so funny that I think this was the question in our home study, and it means something so different now. But the core of it is family. So, part of my family was built on adoption, and now my immediate family is built on adoption. And it's everything. Adoption is life for us. Like, it's literally everything now. Nico's everything. And it's not just us, it's our entire family has wrapped themselves around this little boy. And to watch this happen has been my whole world. I constantly tell Matt, I'm like, and I have a soon to be 14-year-old stepdaughter. So I've watched Matt parent before. But it's different in the sense that men in general don't have that motherly instinct. So to watch him love Nico the way that he loves him is just crazy to me. So I don't know, adoption is everything. It's love, it's life, it's family, it's everything at this point.
It's fulfilled your dreams, huh?
It's exceeded my dreams. This is being a mom, and mind you, I was not the girl that grew up and wanted to get married and have the white picket fence and all that. Like, I was career focused and wanted to work in New York City, which I did, and that was what I wanted to do. There was no fairy tale world that I grasped onto. Being a mom was something I always wanted, but in a different way. Like, I'm not very warm and fuzzy. So I'm not that warm. But when I'm with
That's Kenny. Kenny's the warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, like, same. Matt's warm and fuzzy.
Oh, let's cuddle. I'm like,
same. So I'm not that person, but Nico just like gets me.
Yes.
Yes. In a way that I never. I mean,
no, you could. I know.
Side of me that I didn't even know I had.
I know. I
so,
know.
Fulfilling dreams for sure exceeded them and has turned me into a totally different person. I just, I didn't even know this person was inside of me.
Let me say that I don't think I when we had Peyton, I feel like I just became like this emotional basket case. Like, you couldn't catch me crying for anything unless I was like in pain before.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, and this is motherhood now. Now I'm just emotional and I don't know what's happening with my life.
I was watching a video on Instagram yesterday.
And
this football player made a touchdown, and the first person he ran to celebrate was his mom. And I am crying.
Motherhood.
And I sent it to a friend of mine in Jersey. She's an adoptive mom as well. And I sent it to her, and she's crying. She has a little boy too. We're crying. I mean, what is this?
I don't know. There must be something in the finalization papers.
Well, I mean, I will still mess you up if you screw around with my family. But he has really made like I mean, I'm a whole new person in the best way possible, really, but like a whole new person. Adoption has completely changed my existence. And that's why when I said, when his mom thanks me, I can't wrap my head around that. Like, she has no idea what her sacrifice has done for us. Like, she just doesn't. It's just crazy.
I
It
know.
is really, the whole situation is crazy. But it's amazing. Yeah.
Ugh. Well, Sandy, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, the story of how Nico came into your life is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can't make that up. I mean,
No.
his birth, everything was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean,
and that is a whole nother ball game.
I love it.
Yeah. The home birth and all of it was just, it couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I love every single part of that. I mean, that just goes with my life. But I hope that anyone watching this that has had any questions about open adoption, or thought that you could never do this, or you've maybe heard negative things about it, or maybe you were one of those people that just came in and said, hey, we want to close adoption. I hope that hearing her story and hearing us speak to each other, you can see the benefits of having an open dialogue, an open relationship with your child's first family, the benefits of that, because that is so important for them to have. There's certain things that we will never be able to provide to our children ever. And like I said about my daughter, and I know Sandy feels the same way, I don't want to exclude any positivity or any love that's going to come into my daughter's life, no matter where it comes from. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped. I hope this video helped clear up some misconceptions that you may have had. If you guys have any questions about open adoption, please leave them down in the comments. I know Sandy would not mind jumping in and answering any of them. Please go ahead and push the like button. If you are not subscribed to my channel already, please go ahead and push that subscribe button. Subscribe. If you need to contact me, all of my info is down in the the description below. And again, thank you so much for watching. I upload a new video on a different adoption topic every week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.